out
All right.
of the park.
I think we're recording. All right,
Yep.
give it a try.
Ready?
Yep.
Now?
Yes.
Hello, this is Paulie and me. I'm Loren Margulies. I am the me part of Paulie and me, and this is...
And I am Paul Warschauer. I am the Paulie in the Paulie and Me series. This is, I think, our 6th episode
Could
in
be.
the first season. We've talked about everything from our own TV show to the best comedians, the best.
Yes.
And what else did we talk about?
We did movies, comedy movies.
Oh, best comedy movies and some other stuff. But today we are very excited to talk about movies in the horror and suspense genre.
Ooh. Scary movies.
Well, I'm going to say right from the start, scary movies fit into the horror and genre, the horror and suspense genre. So, all right.
Yes.
Why don't you go ahead with your first selection?
My first selection, The Shining.
Oh, that's on my list too. So good.
Jack Nicholson. Oh my God, was that good? And not a bloody, gory movie, but suspense and clever. What would you? Well, suspense, but what would you call it? Suspenseful horror without being
Suspenseful
graphic.
fantasy.
Say again.
Suspenseful fantasy.
Okay.
Is what he is seeing or what we are seeing, is it real or is it in the imagination of the people that have been up there at the Overlook Lodge?
Right.
Regardless of what it is, Stanley Kubrick, who did the movie version of the book, I think did a brilliant job. It's much different than the book, which I read years later.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, the best. It's my favorite of all the horror suspense, because I don't like the scary movies with chainsaws, hockey masks, ventriloquist dummies, dolls, or zombies. Things that go boo, I don't want those. I like the suspense. So
yeah, well, it's a different way of projecting it. One is about the graphicness of it. The other is about the psychological intrigue of it. And we definitely have both ends of the spectrum, especially with today's CGI and stuff. So a movie like that really stayed to the premise of just clever, suspenseful horror ideas. They never delved into the gore of it.
yeah, you don't have a whole lot of, well, literally, you don't have a lot of blood and guts in The Shining, except the elevator opens and 8 million gallons of blood come out. But it's not the same as seeing somebody get their neck slashed and blood squirting,
Yeah, I got you. Okay.
All right, so The Shining is your first. My, after The Shining, to me, the best suspense and horror is the whole Silence of the Lambs series.
Wow.
I mean, you got 3 or 4 movies that talk about a Hannibal Lecter cannibal. Just tremendous suspense, especially in the first one. Have you caught him? Have you not? Poor Clarice Starling, who is spared because he is, she is fodder for this great genius psychopath.
And right there, that's the point I was just going to make. What made that so scary is not that he's just a killer and he's just a bloodthirsty maniac, but he was brilliant. And that makes it even more scary.
And he carries a grudge. I mean, I don't know if it's the second one. He goes after the crooked detective who tried to catch him. And, then this gory guy in a wheelchair and feeding him to the pigs. I mean, but the whole thing was great suspense, great storytelling, all 3 of them. So that's my second favorite, my first one.
Okay, my second one is, and it hadn't really been done like this to the point when it was done, The Exorcist.
Yes. Yes. Ooh. That's supposed to be her head turning around?
Yeah, I was enacting her head turning around.
That's nice. That was
I can't do that, so I had to use my own.
You had to use your own CG, your own special effects.
Yes, my chair is my CGI. It was because it was a little bit delving into an area that's always been sort of can be a scary thing to people. The devil, that whole premise.
Possession of the spirits.
Yeah. We had touched on that for years and years with theology and, different ideas like that. But this was sort of the first time they depicted it with a cute little girl, and they did it really well.
Yes. Now, I'll tell you that the great story about that, I think it came out in the late 70s? Yeah, it must have been the 70s. I was still in Chicago. 70s. So I went to the Northtown Theater to see it. There was a line of 1,000 people. Yeah. So I got shut out of the first showing of it, and we all said, let's go home. I went to another theater 2 or 3 days later, and we were shut out again. I have never been shut out of a movie. So I said to myself, I'm not going to see The Exorcist because it's an omen.
Yeah.
It's an omen not to see it. And I never saw it. I really haven't seen it ever.
To date, you have not seen it?
Never seen it. I've watched little snippets of it on TV. It's pretty tame now. But I remember people coming out and vomiting, and a woman was selling Kleenex outside of the theater. And I mean, they made a big deal out of it.
What's funny is what you just said. I didn't see it until years later because I was really young when it came out. But I do remember driving by different movie theaters in LA that had lines around the block. So it captured something in people's imaginations that it scared them, but they wanted to see it.
Yes. The idea is that we love to be scared.
Yeah.
It's some primal thing. I read this thing years ago. We love to go on roller coasters. Yeah. Why do we want to be thrown around and tossed upside down and backwards? There's a sense of thrill and danger that we enjoy. It's the same with movies. We want to go and we do this, but then secretly, no, I don't want to be scared.
Yeah.
So well, that definitely is on the list of everybody's. It's got to be like The Shining, and so all right. Well, the first film, and I will never forgive my father for taking me to see it. He took me to see Psycho, Alfred Hitchcock, the king of suspense. Oh. There's no horror in that movie. There's just a lot of suspense. To the degree that even in the shower scene, and I've studied it at film school, when, what's his name, the crazy guy, Norman Bates, is stabbing the woman in the shower, they never show a knife plunging into flesh. It's always the cutting of it and then the chocolate syrup, which they use for blood. That's a good.
And then they show her fall and pull on the thing, but they never show the actual penetration.
No, they never show a knife going into skin. It's the editing and that weird string, reek, 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 reek.
And those were the kind of things that Alfred Hitchcock was known for. Again, no actual gore, just the perception of it happening.
The suspense.
The suspense, yes.
Suspense. Hitchcock once said, I don't like to show the violence, but I want a man to walk into an office and put a bomb under the desk, and then he leaves. Then the innocent man walks in not knowing the bomb is under there. And the audience is waiting for the man either to get out or to say, there's a bomb under my desk. But it's that suspense that Hitchcock liked to build. All right, so that's mine. That's Psycho. Your turn.
So Psycho was yours. Okay, yes. Okay, good choice. That's a good choice. My last one, and obviously there's so many that you can pick from, but I did, again, try to go with suspense over gore or just slaughterhouse kind of movies. I went with a modern one that got a lot of acclaim, which is interesting because usually horror movies don't get a lot of acclaim, Get Out.
Oh, yes. Suspense and a lot of gore, but mostly suspense.
Yeah, and I think that was Jordan Peele's movie.
Yep.
And what's interesting is to do that genre of a movie for a guy who's so hysterically funny in the comedy world is quite the contrast or quite the juxtaposition. But great movie.
Great suspense, and we're not exactly sure what's going on until about halfway through, and then you realize a very well made film. Again, it's suspense, it's mystery, it's a little bit of gore. The ending, of course, is wonderfully bloody and violent and appropriate, but nonetheless, it's very scary.
Yeah, so that's my third.
All right, my third is a science fiction horror genre again.
Okay,
the whole Aliens series that started with Sigourney Weaver and ends with, I think, a brilliant movie called Prometheus. That's kind of the backwards story of how aliens all got started.
I didn't see Prometheus, but I know about it. But the first Aliens with the thing coming out of the stomach, we had never seen
that either.
Whoa!
I think was that John Hurd, I think, who was the scientist, and I don't think he said the words, I got a stomach ache or something, but he did indicate there was something wrong, and that thing pops out of his stomach. That was it. Half the theater when I saw it jumped in the air. So that's suspense, horror, and science fiction, and it lasted 4 movies. And they all did very well.
Yeah. Sigourney Weaver was wonderful.
Just brilliant. Get away from her, you bitch. Was a big line when she's in that claw machine. And by the way, the critics all talk about her as finally being a female hero. They haven't had a whole lot of science fiction movies where the woman is the hero. And she, you forget she's a woman. She's the hero of our story. So.
Yeah, those were good. Those were really good. I can't argue any of your choices because usually you're wrong on at least one of them.
And that's correct. And you were wrong at least on 2 of them. But today we hit 1,000. We batted 1,000.
Out of the park.
Out of the park. All right, real quickly before we go, a couple of your favorite actors in this genre.
Okay. Boris Karloff, to go back early.
Vincent Price.
Vincent Price. Stephen King, for a modernish guy.
Well, he's not an actor, but he's a writer.
But he does show up in some of his movies.
Yeah, but he's terrible. He's a caricature of himself, but that's fine. Okay. Then I'm going to say, going way back, the man of 1,000 faces who did so many great movies, Lon Chaney. Lon Chaney, who did The Hunchback, and he did 1,000 movies.
Yeah.
He's largely forgotten, but his makeup was his own and just very clever.
I was going to say, I was thinking of some of those people, but most people in this day and age probably won't know those. And going to those guys back when, that little guy that went talk like this.
Oh, Peter Lorre.
Peter Lorre. Loved him because he was the little, quiet, big-eyed, silent guy that would come and kill you.
That's right. And he would sneak up on you and say, "Oh, don't worry about me. I'm just looking for something in the back room."
And then, loved him. But I didn't pick him. My last choice, the last person I thought of was Robert Englund. He's the one that played Freddy Krueger.
Oh, see, and that's one of the genres I don't care for. The hockey mask and was Krueger the hockey mask guy, or was he Leatherface?
The long, the long
claws,
the weird face.
Oh, he had the scratched up face.
Yeah, and Krueger sort of started that genre. Now, obviously, that's makeup, so you can't see Robert Englund. So unlike like Boris Karloff or some of these other guys where you can see them and they scare you, sort of like what's his name did in Silence of the Lambs.
Oh yeah, Anthony Hopkins.
Anthony Hopkins. He scared you just by his normal face and what he did. Englund is different. It's makeup.
Yeah,
so
it's
you
makeup.
Say,
No.
but I just like him and the character he created. I just think there's really something with that.
Never watched them. I have no desire to be scared. Boo, boo, boo. I don't like that. So,
I got you. Okay.
well, this was a wonderful episode. We talked about horror and suspense. I think that should make the audiences very happy.
That gives us a whole wide spectrum of stuff we've talked about: comedy, horror, fantasy. Now, just a little note to the studio audience: keep your eye out for an upcoming series that Mr. Warshower and myself are working on, and somebody may be the star of it. I don't know who. It'd be indiscreet to say.
I'm shocked.
But and that would be American Wiener.
Yes, our new show, American Wiener. But we'll give you more of that later. So
More later.
All right. For now, this is Paulie saying goodbye.
And Loren from Dallas, Texas saying goodbye.
See you next time.